Alright, what is up YouTube? Back at it again with another Dead or Alive discussion video. So for today's video, I actually wanted to talk about the comparing and contrasting of Virtua Fighter and Dead or Alive, because I got a ton of comments on my Dead or Alive reboot video of people saying, oh, the only thing Dead or Alive has going for it is the titties and the fan service and stuff like that. And I'm just like, bro, y'all are capping. Like, there is no way. Like, people saying, oh, Dead or Alive only has titties and fan service and boobs and waifus and stuff, but Virtua Fighter and Tekken are just better games in general, and like, if you take away that from DOA, it's just a worse version of Virtua Fighter. And I'm like, hello? Like, y'all are capping. Like, there's no way. Like, y'all are playing the wrong Dead or Alive. Like, I'm sorry, but y'all must only be playing Dead or Alive Extreme, because the Dead or Alive fighting game is literally just Virtua Fighter, but with more sauce, with more cinematics, more flashy mechanics. Like, there's way more going for Dead or Alive than there is Virtua Fighter. Like, I promise you. Now, that's not to take away from Virtua Fighter itself, because, you know, I did some research and Virtua Fighter is the OG, right? Like, Virtua Fighter is the OG 3D fighting game. Tekken, Soul Calibur, Dead or Alive would not exist without Virtua Fighter. Like, Virtua Fighter is the OG 3D fighting game that inspired all the other 3D fighting games. So, not to take away from the OG, the GOAT, you know what I'm saying? But Virtua Fighter is really basic. Like, Virtua Fighter is a really bland kind of game. Right, when we look at all of the different modern fighting games that are out nowadays, a lot of them just have some form of flash, you know what I mean? Like Dragon Ball FighterZ, Skullgirls, Sam Show, King of Fighters, Street Fighter, Tekken, like they all have some kind of super mechanic, some kind of flashy moveset, or things that you can do to make it, you know, feel nice, spice it up, you know. Whereas Virtua Fighter, like the latest entry in the Virtua Fighter series, Virtua Fighter 5 Ultimate Showdown, which by the way is completely dead. Like, that game is so dead. I tried to play that game and there was literally no one online playing that game at all. It's unfortunate, but I digress. That game really just has nothing, has none of that. It has no flash, zero sauce. And honestly, like, you could argue that that is the beauty of Virtua Fighter. Like, there is no supers, there is no counters or techs or this and that. Like, it's all just bare bones, just fighting, you know? You could argue that that's the beauty of it, and, you know, like, that's fine, right? Like, if you want to look at it as this is the OG, there is no supers, there is no, you know, comeback mechanics and all that crazy stuff, and you want to look at it as just that, just the bare bones, like, fighting, and that's the beauty of it, you know, I can get behind that argument. But to say Virtua Fighter has more going for it than Dead or Alive is just cap. Like, it's just cap. Like, Dead or Alive has way more mechanics than Virtua Fighter. Way more mechanics, way more going for it. Simply just in the stages. Like, the fact that, you know, Dead or Alive, you have these wall bounces and you transfer from wall to wall and you can still continue the combo. The fact that you have all these stage interactions with dinosaurs eating you, tanks shooting you, like, it's just insane. Not only that, but the hold mechanics itself is so in-depth with Dead or Alive. Like, it's honestly baffling and blows my mind how people were saying like Virtua Fighter is better than Dead or Alive, because I'm like, dude, Dead or Alive has a hold mechanic. It makes everything so in depth where you can guess what your opponent's gonna do and you can be rewarded by guessing correctly and get damage on them, stop whatever attack they're going to do, and counter them depending on which way you guess it. Like, you have to guess if it's gonna be a high, a low, a mid. You have to guess if it's gonna be a punch or a kick. So that alone makes your brain have to think pretty hard on what they're going to do, while also responding correctly with a proper reaction time, right? You don't have anything like that necessarily in Virtua Fighter. I think the most Virtua Fighter has going for it is like the stance switches and stuff like that, but there's really not that much going for it, like, if I'm being honest. And again, that's not to hate on Virtua Fighter by any means, but I'm just saying, like, I cannot believe the amount of people that were saying like this and that. And, you know, again, if you like Virtua Fighter more than Dead or Alive, or more than Tekken, or more than Soul Calibur, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that by any means. But I was legit looking into Virtua Fighter, like, I'm like, wait, where are these mechanics people are talking about? Where is like the depth that people are talking about? Because I'm like, hello? Like, have they been not playing Dead or Alive? Like, hello? Dead or Alive has just so much depth to it. Like, people just, I feel like, don't even realize it, right? Like, I talked a little bit about the hold mechanics, right? But it gets way deeper. There's expert holds that where if you're gonna guess what your opponent's gonna do, you press the opposite direction before pressing that direction of the hold to where you get even more damage, right? So it's like a Mortal Kombat input almost, and it's just like there's a deeper level to what's already so deep that is the whole mechanics of DOA. Like, it's crazy. Like, people are just, I'm like, hello, like, what are y'all talking about? So I just like had to let that out, because I'm like, this is crazy how people are saying this, and I'm like, y'all must be playing the wrong Dead or Alive. Y'all must be playing Dead or Alive Extreme or something, because I'm like, ain't no way. Ain't no way. Alright, so post video editing Mondy chiming in here. I just wanted to quickly say that all the arguments I'm addressing here and all the points I'm trying to make, I don't mean Dead or Alive is better than Virtua Fighter as in like that is the end all be all, because obviously you can like one game more than the other, and what you think is better is going to be subjective. What I think is better is going to be subjective, obviously, right? But all my arguments that I'm trying to make here, and when I say Dead or Alive is better than Virtua Fighter, I'm mainly meaning as in, like, if you tried to market both games to a newcomer to fighting games, or if you tried to say like, oh, this game has more going for it than this game, right? My main point that I'm trying to make here is that Dead or Alive has a lot going for it if you take away the waifus and the booba and the sex appeal and everything like that, because that was the main thing that bothered me from a lot of the comments that people posted about that, was like, oh hey, Dead or Alive has nothing else going for it, and I feel like that's just completely wrong. And this video isn't meant to be an argument of, oh, which game is deeper than the other, because that's not what I'm like trying to go for or trying to make here. I think that's a whole different discussion for a whole other video. But yeah, so before you guys get into the comments like, oh, Virtua Fighter is way deeper than Dead or Alive, etc., that's not really the argument here. I just wanted to make the argument that Dead or Alive is deep, because I feel like most of the people that were commenting didn't get that. When I say Dead or Alive has a lot going for it, aside from that, I'm also talking about not just the mechanics and the depth of the fighting itself, but also the characters, the story, the stages, you know, just the overall gameplay, what you can get from the game, right? And each and every 3D fighting game I feel like does have a lot to offer, right? Soul Calibur with its each character has a different weapon play style kind of thing, and not to mention character creation and all those different things, and not to mention the lore of Soul Calibur is really cool. I'm a huge Soul Calibur fan, I'm not gonna lie. I did start my fighting game journey with Soul Calibur 4, if I'm being honest. But yeah, Soul Calibur has a lot going for it. Tekken has a lot going for it as well, with its characters and legacy and just everything with, you know, the tag tournament games, and some of the lore I think is pretty cool too. And yeah, like I mentioned previously, the point of this video, Dead or Alive obviously has a lot going for it with its characters and story, and you know, ninjas are just cool, man. What can I say? The fan service is definitely there as one thing, but even if you took that away, I still think its fighting mechanics, its hold system, the ninjas, the lore, you know, the stage interactions, the cliffhangers, the collabs, like we haven't even talked about the anime collabs. Oh my god, like Dead or Alive still has a lot going for it. Every 3D fighting game has something going for it, and I love each and every one of them. And yeah, my main point was just to say that Dead or Alive has more going for it than just the fan service. So yeah, for the rest of this video, while you're listening, if it seems like I'm trying to compare them solely based on depth and mechanics, like that's not the point at all. The point is that when I say Dead or Alive has more going for it, or like it's basically Virtua Fighter but with more sauce, I'm not just saying that as in the depths or the fighting mechanics itself. I'm saying just for everything, right? Like the flashiness, the stages, the story, the characters, everything, right? And obviously not saying Dead or Alive story is the best in the world, because we all know that's not true. But, you know, there's definitely some cool ass characters in Dead or Alive, and I feel like, obviously I know it's subjective, but I just think a lot of the characters in Dead or Alive are way cooler than the characters in Virtua Fighter. I'm mainly saying it has more going for it, as in if you try to market this to someone who has never seen either games or who wants to play a 3D fighting game, I feel like there's more to market or be like, hey, this game looks way cooler or way sicker to watch the gameplay of, to actually play, as opposed to Virtua Fighter, which looks a lot more bland. That's what I mean. And I feel like that's a little bit less subjective than trying to argue which one is deeper. Like that's obviously a whole different argument. But if you just watch both of the games, watching Virtua Fighter and watching Dead or Alive, I feel like Dead or Alive is just way more fun to watch. Like there's way more going on. It just looks way more fun and way sicker to me. But yeah, it was cool to see a lot of the Virtua Fighter characters come into Dead or Alive 5. Like that was a pretty cool addition. The only thing that sucked about that was their voice lines for the game were not cleaned up. So like when you would see the Sarah entrance, like for the Dead or Alive 5 game, it would play her Virtua Fighter 4, I think, voice clip, and it just sounded so scuffed, you know? And that kind of sucks. I wish they cleaned up the voice lines for the Virtua Fighter characters in Dead or Alive 5, but yeah, it is what it is. I would definitely like to see more crossovers like that from Virtua Fighter and Dead or Alive, because I do think that the two are very similar, you know, and I do like how both of them have square as the block button. Like I think that that's pretty cool. And again, I don't want it to come off as if I'm hating on Virtua Fighter, because I am definitely not doing that by any means, but yeah. it's just I got a lot of comments. I'm like, this is you know, let me talk my shit, you know, let me say something for Dead or Alive one time, for the one time. With that being said, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe if you haven't already, that helps me out a ton. And yeah, feel free to check out more of my Dead or Alive content. I really do love this series and love this franchise, and I do love fighting games in general. So yeah, if you guys have anything you would like to say or give your inputs on Virtua Fighter, just let me know. You know, like I said, I'm not too familiar with the Virtua Fighter franchise, so maybe I'm missing some stuff, and if I am, yeah, just feel free to let me know in the comments. But yeah, that's all I have to say for this one, guys. Thank y'all so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see y'all in the next video.